Get back to work. Go on.
Almost 3/4 of a can to get those 2 passes. May do one more. I really like the bone white tone of it. I'm going to be using like more of a pure white, this white, a gray, a green, a red, a black, and a gold. Or orange. As primer hid a multitude of sins. There's still a few more that are obvious. However, another coat of this should get rid of even those. A little dirt on the insides there. I'll definitely have to clean that out. In fact, just doing that to clean it out, I'm realizing that this could be used to good effect, much as the accidental nicks and dings that have gone in there. There's a little bit of a scoop in that one, for example. Now let's try that as just the experiment. Always a cat hair. Yeah, one more pass should be nice. So previous to that experiment I just did, this was the previous experiment to that. Or wait, how does the grammar work on that one? So it's definitely better to make sure your edges are cleaned out beforehand. Yeah, pretty happy. Pretty darn happy. Oh, and update for the night is that this was shot at about 9 to 10 a.m. It's now about 6 p.m. Still a little tacky in the thicker places. There's very little sanding that I'm going to do to finish it off and then start putting colors on. I'm still deciding what colors I'm going to do. I'm going to try another concept now. So far I've come up with 3. The arms, I shot those with an extra pass of white for the heck of it. Same with the chin strap, and those are going on 24 hours since those are painted. I was going to pull them out, but I'm going to give them at least another 24, if not 48 more hours just to really set, because silver can take an extra long time. Another example of the water and getting affected by the paint. So there is a lot of spray going around in here, and some kind of plexiglass barrier coming down there will be a good thing, I think. Just gotta work the specifics. And weathering on the helmet continues. Over here with these 3 pieces, these are sitting at 24 hours each. One half of the chin cup is sitting at 48 hours because that side was good enough. So these are essentially done. I pulled out the hair dryer pieces. Those were sitting at 48 to 60 hours. And over here with this guy, the top white coat is just moments old. However, below that is a primary white coat, which happened half an hour ago. And then below that, this morning, 8 to 10 hours ago, I did all the rust colors at once. The orange, the yellow, the light brown, the dark brown. So that is all sitting under there, and that is wet. So So I'm going to have to move that, because over on this piece I threw this extra white coat on while the video wasn't rolling. So now it's going to be a matter of sanding that down with some 320 to start, and possibly a little higher, possibly a little lower. 24 hours later, the surface is still a little tacky, but that'll go away with the sanding. But I'll still be careful about putting fingerprints and dents in the paint, so overall it's still relatively soft. And from the last video of those final top white coats to this, one full pass of 100 grit and then one full pass of 320. Two passes in some small areas, but not too much. In a few places I went down to the bare plastic, so that'll have to be resilvered. In another place I wound up smudging paint around because it was still outgassing. It's been 48 hours now, and it still does have just a little bit of tack to it in the thicker places, and it's not quite fingerprintable anymore, perhaps. But it's got the slightest bit of tack. So this is what I'm talking about when you're talking about weathering. Now the fast, easy way to do this is to just do it up to the factory colors that you want, and then get some black wash, brown wash, green wash, go over the helmet with that, and then wipe that down, leaving just little bits here and there. In this instance, what I'm doing is, by building up the paint and then going back down to the base layers, you're bringing things up, which has a much more realistic effect and a much more subtler effect, and a very subtle difference. But it'd be very difficult to replicate this with washes. And of course, this is still just an undercoat. Over this, I'm going to be going with silver. There's a fair amount of what I would call dirty silver that just doesn't have any glow to it, but still has that metal effect. So by going next with a bright, essentially polished silver, and then going with white on top of that, a single coat of white, then colors, when I trim down from there and cut through with all the sandpaper, before I get to this level here, I'll have that base silver again, so I can stop the sanding process or continue and go further. Another trick to do would be to wet this down and put salt over it, or rubber cement, or hairspray, just little blobs and dabs here and there all over the place, so you make sure that you bring that particular detail back. Like if I wanted to bring a lot of this noise back here, get some wet salt, put it along the side there, spray the new layer of paint, and then wipe the salt away. Salt is good with the water because then it granulates and fractalizes all over around the edges. Rubber cement is good for really big areas when you want to take a big chip out of a paint. And hairspray can kind of be a medium between the both. It's got blobby edges and yet has the full coverage of rubber cement. Oh, hey.